Welcome to Digimon.
Hello and welcome to Digimon, and welcome once again to another Deck Profile Monday. If you are liking our content, make sure to like, subscribe and ding the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our future content. There will be some links down in the description below to our previous matches and deck profiles as well for you to check out down there. Speaking of things down in the description, there will also be a specific playlist to our previous Jank Tank tourney series, which featured this deck in that, which may give you a little clue as to what this deck could be. It's not an EX5 deck today, guys. We are taking a little divergence from EX5, but this time next week, we will be looking at Grace Novamon, so make sure to stay tuned for that deck there. Of course, the Grace Novamon deck was selected in our EX5 poll, and we currently have another poll that we are running for our second Jank Tank to help create our tier list for that event, and you can access that in another link that will be down in the description for our brand new Digimon Discord channel, where you can see all the latest reveals from Japan, which excitingly enough will eventually just become news in general because Bandai is looking to sync up all of the releases for Japan and everywhere else. So very exciting news there. We will be putting that link to the Jank Tank 2 tier list voting poll. It'll have about 2 more days of voting time left on it for you guys to add some extra votes on there. But anyways, on to the deck we're looking at today. This was actually requested in our last Jank Tank video via the comments by Paris Vasquez 6335, so thank you very much for the request there. Really appreciate the comment in general, and obviously we are very, very much wanting to do requests if we can, so make sure to let us know in the comments if any more requests are coming our way. Anyways, we'll take a look at the deck today, and this is one of my favourite decks to play in Digimon. It's never been the best in terms of meta, even when it was properly meta, but getting some improvements in BT14 that may help it, but it's the second deck I ever built when I started playing Digimon, and it's definitely one of the most fun, and that is AguBond, Agumon Bond of Bravery. This deck is so much fun, blast to play, got some really good pieces in BT14, and still a very fun deck to play now in EX5. But let's get into the profile, enough of me waffling. So first of all, our eggs, we've got 4 copies of the BT14 Koromon. Now, reason being is because generically it just says when a card is removed from your opponent's security stack, draw 1. So this allows every Digimon that potentially this might be under to remove get a draw when it removes that security stack. Really, really cool. Just nice and generic. Very, very good rookie there. Next up, we're going to go into our rookies. We've got 4 copies of the BT14 Agumon. This card is absolutely phenomenal, especially assuming we've got such a high tamer count in this deck, which, spoilers for later. Start of main, if you've got a tamer, Digivolve into a Greymon for free, and as the inheritable, it gives 2000s to a Digimon with Greymon or Omnimon in its name, which, as this is a very TIE-centric deck, we've got lots of Greymons, lots of stuff going on there. We've got no Omnimons, but obviously we've got a different level 7 in mind when we get to our top end. But still, fantastic card, really speeds things up. Just fantastic. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant boy. Next up, we've got 4 copies of BT12 Agumon. Really great searcher, reveals top 4, adds the Greymon or Omnimon. Obviously, we're only going to be adding Greymons in that case in its name, and 1 Tamer card with Taikamiya in its name specifically. It does not have to just be Taikamiya. It can be Taikamiya in name, which is very important for one of our Tamers in particular. But incredibly good searcher, gives a 1000 DP boost to any of our Greymons as well, which is great for our general kind of champion rush kind of strategy. Brilliant, brilliant searcher. Fantastic card. Next up, 4 copies of EX1 Agumon. So as you might have told by this point, I'm not playing any Agumon X's in this build, just because I want it to be a little bit different compared to like my Greymon stuff, like my true Greymon decks. you know, where we basically always want to play X antibodies. Obviously, we can't search AguBond with the Agumon X, either of them, in fact, the black one or the red one. But this guy, when we're attacking, reveal the top 3 cards for your deck, add 1 Tamer card, that's any Tamer card, doesn't, you know, irrespective of colour, and 1 Digimon card with Agumon in its name. So this guy, when you're attacking, can potentially add Tamers that you might need, other rookies, so it helps searching bottom line if you needed more rookies to kind of continue on with your kind of champion rush, and it helps search AguBond as well. Really, really cool little card. Then last 2 slots in the rookies, 2 copies of BT6 Agumon. Great all turns effect. When you play a Tamer with Tai Kamiya in its name, gain 1 memory. Really, really cool card. You know, if something comes out, pops up as your security and this guy's there, potentially he can swing turn back to you. He gives you a little bit of extra memory when you're playing a Tamer, so you can help kind of choke the opponent a little bit more. Just great card. And then inheritable, while this Digimon has AguBond in its name, it gains security attack +1. So it can help AguBond kind of clear up even more security at the end of the game when you're looking to, you know, push for that win. Next up, we have our champion line. So we've got 4 copies of the promo 10 Greymon. Notice I've got the RB one there as well, so I had to just double check the serialization because they are different. This is an RB 007, but it's treated as this, and you know, obviously, but this is a quintessential card for our kind of champion rush strategy. While it's got Agumon in its Digivolution cards, it gains security attack +1, and again, that's why Agumon X is potentially something that I would avoid when you're playing AguBond, because it does specifically say Agumon, not Agumon in its name. So if you were in a situation where you evolved an Agumon X on top of this, this would not have its security attack +1, completely just shuts it down. But incredibly good for getting high damage early on. We've got ways of boosting the DP, both from inheritables here and from one of our options that we'll go into later. Just a great card for that kind of champion rush strategy. The most important card for that initial champion rush, in fact. Next 2 cards, we've got 2 copies of BT14 Greymon. I wanted to try this guy out. I think he's got a lot of potential in AguBond specifically. I probably wouldn't use him in normal Greymon just because BT5 is better. And to be fair, BT5 would be a good shout in this as well. But again, this helps with this. We're going for more of a champion rush strategy. We need to do damage in the early game. We've got ways of going to our top end. That means we can avoid going the usual level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6, level 7 route of play. We can go, we've got ways of kind of getting around that. So the more damage we can do early on, the better. When he attacks, he gains 2000 DP, which is great, goes up to 7k on his own, 9k if he's got the right inheritable here from the Agumon from BT14, potentially beyond that as well, if you've got certain options and Tamers out. And again, gives a boost of DP of 2000 DP to your kind of Digimon that may Digivolve on top of him. And also gains memory when attacking if you've got Tai on the field. And that is, Tai Kamiya in its name. Very important distinction there. So I definitely want to try him out, and I think he's a pretty cool card. Next up, 2 copies of BT12 Greymon. If you don't have a timer, I've done that in 2 separate videos now. I say timer instead of tamer. I just have Tai on the brain. I don't know what it is. I'm too much of a Greymon stan. But yeah, so great card. Helps you play out Tamers for free, obviously, so long as you don't have a Tamers out, and also gives you DP boosts to your level 5 and 6s. You know, really, really cool card for our champion line. Next, so this is where our ratios start getting weird, just because of the way AguBond works. But we've now got our level 5s. Oh no, we've not got our level 5s. Forgive me. Almost forgot a very important champion. The only kind of non-Greymon, non-Tai thing in the whole deck. 2 copies of Agumon. Too important to have this guy in here. Helps you swing for game because you've got so many red Tamers. Phenomenal card. Does a great job at, just, getting that clearance. We can potentially whiff on it because it may go away on some of our kind of searching effects, but he still is searchable thanks to the training cards which we do run, and just helps us swing for that game. He's so important in this, really important. Now we're going to go on to our level 5s. And first of all, we have 4 copies of BT14 Skull Greymon. I remember seeing when this guy came out, I thought to myself, okay, that's not really going to work in a Greymon deck. But in AguBond, this guy is cracked. He put in so much work for me during the Jank Tank tournament. You wouldn't even believe, by trashing 1 card in your hand, you delete one of your Digimon with the lowest level and one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level. So if he is the lowest out, he will delete himself. If you've got something lower, it will delete that. But it's always lowest level. So if your opponent only has one thing out, that's their lowest level. So potentially this guy can delete up to level 7 if that's their only thing out, which is really cool. Then on deletion, because ideally he does want to delete himself with his effect, because of this on deletion effect, you may place 1 Agumon from your trash without paying the cost. You may play 1 Agumon from your trash without paying the cost, sorry. And then if you have a tamer with tie in its name, that Digimon gains rush. So potentially this guy can get you to swing for game. Because you can Digivolve into him, kill, delete itself, delete something on board, and then bring out an Agumon and then swing for game with that Agumon. And that did come up. I'm fairly sure in the Dragon Links game against Dan, which is in the Jank Tank, I did manage to swing for game by doing that. But really cool card. You can actually survive its deletion effect if you run Greymon X, which obviously I'm not. But I just think you don't want to have this guy survive. You want him to be able to go delete and Agumon rush. So yeah. But he is searchable from our BT12 Agumon. Training card obviously will send him away because he's purple, but phenomenal card. And then our other level 5 is 2 copies of BT12 Metal Greymon. Like I said, ratios get weird from here, guys. But really cool in terms of raiding and being able to potentially clear some problematic Digimon with that raid. Also plays out Tamers for free, so long as they're red or black and have a play cost of 4 or less, which all of our Tamers are either red, black, or have a play cost of 4 or less. So really great card. Also does give piercing as an inheritable to Greymons and Omnimons, which is not as important, but can come up. Then next, our only level 6, and we're running 2 of it. Again, ratios are weird. Is 2 copies of BT14 War Greymon. Again, this guy, he just kind of does everything, and you'd think, oh yeah, he's going to be an absolute staple in just a War Greymon deck. But he only ever really gets run of as a 2 of. He gets put to the side by the BT12 War Greymon in true kind of War Greymon decks. But in AguBond, again, does a great job. If they've got something with 10k or more in play, you can warp into this, which is fantastic. When he digivolves, he gains raid, so he can choose to delete Digimon. Then when attacking, gains security attack +1 and piercing, utilizing that raid even more so. Great card for AguBond. Before, when I played AguBond way back, before BT14, we didn't run any level 6s. We were just going Champion Rush, and then hoping to warp into AguBond via some of our effects. But now we do technically have something AguBond can digivolve on top of. I'm not too sure why you would, but the option's there. But does a great job at kind of just being like a backup boss monster for us and does some really good work. Then our true boss monster, 3 copies of Agumon Bond of Bravery. To be fair, by standards now in BT14, as a level 7, he's a little bit underwhelming. Which is why I am massively excited for the new Agumon Bond of Bravery Ace that we're getting as I believe, in theory, as a box topper in BT17. Obviously, if anyone can verify that for sure, let me know in the comments below. But this guy does do a great job right now as being a game finisher. If you have a Tamer in play, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 13,000 DP. That's when attacking. And in your turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, trash the top card of their security stack. So like I say, as level 7s go, kind of underwhelming, but he's still great because we can do some cool things with him, and, like I say, by BT17, which is a way away at the moment, this guy will probably be replaced by that new Ace card, but still a really cool card. Gives the deck its namesake, you know, and through certain means, which we'll get into in a second, we can actually warp on top of our Agumons into this guy, which gives a really surprise level 7 for our opponent to suddenly deal with. And speaking of that ability to warp, we got our Tamers now, and the first Tamer we've got is 4 copies of BT6 Tai. This guy is still actually really good. You know, so when one of your Digimon with Agumon or Greymon in its name moves from the breeding area, gain 1, draw 1, so you get a little cool boy effect anytime you move from the breeding area with one of your Agumons and Greymons. And then you, as a main effect, may digivolve your Agumon into one Agumon Bond of Bravery, ignoring its level for the Digivolution cost, though, so bear that in mind. And if you do, trash the top 2 cards of your security stack. Then, if you have 1 or more security cards, delete that Digimon at the end of the turn. So this is very much a game finisher type warp. You don't want to do it too early, otherwise you're just damaging yourself. You know, AguBond can't clear a board, but he can finish a game really well. So, you know, the ideal is you have this one out, you then warp into AguBond, so you've got a sec +1 AguBond of Bravery, you know, right at the end of the game. You do that, delete something, then he trashes and then does 2 checks. So, you know, does a really good job with that. But, yeah, Tai from BT6, great card. Next up, 2 copies of BT14 Tai. He helps boost up all of our kind of vaccine Digimon, which is very important, especially in the early game, you know, with the boosts that especially these 2 can get. You know, if we can boost either of these by 2,000 at the beginning of the game, suddenly our ability to ramp up damage is kind of heightened exponentially. So like an ideal stack, you know, you would have that there, move out, give 2,000, digivolve for free into either of these Greymons. You know, you then got either this one out with security attack +1 and 9k, which is not bad for a champion, or you've got this one and you go up into it and you've got 9k again, but when attacking goes up to 11k, which is, that's 11k on a champion is nuts. Absolutely nuts, especially because we've got another card that can potentially give this even more to play with. But yeah, really cool card. And then also when a security card is when a card is removed from your opponent's security stack, by suspending this Tamer, gain 1 memory, so it helps with that memory gain as well. Next Tamers, we've got 2 copies of Tai and Kari, and this is what I was meaning earlier about the Tai and name thing being a really important thing, because obviously this is Tai and Kari, it's not just Tai, so all of our cards can still play this out. Start of your turn, if you have 3 or fewer security cards, gain 1 memory. If your opponent has 3 or fewer security cards, gain 1 memory, which is busted late game. So good, especially if you manage to set yourself to 3 with our memory setter, which we'll get into in just a minute. You know, you're getting so much. And also what's great with this one is in the early game, you can suspend this to make all of your opponent's security Digimon drop down by 2,000 DP, which with the boosts that we can give our champions is very important, because it means that they can potentially survive even checking a level 6. You know, so really, really cool card. I would be tempted to bump this up, but I thought having a memory tamer would be more important. So, and the memory tamer we've gone with, it was a bit of a weird one, because we wanted to go with a Tai that could be a memory tamer, just to make it more searchable and everything there. The red one from BT1 was considered at one point, but the issue is if you warp into AguBond, it doesn't get that extra security attack +1. The only cards that are going to get that are going to be War Greymon and Metal Greymon. So it's potentially something I'd still possibly look into, especially because of offense training can search it. But for the time being, I actually went with this one. So I went with the one from ST15, the black one that when you when an attack target is switched, you draw 1 and one of your Digimon gets 2,000 DP until the end of your turn. Which we've only got one way of changing attack targets. That's with the Raid Metal Greymon. However, because it's a generic effect, if they redirect us, potentially we can do that to gain a draw and 2,000. So it's a little bit of mind play with the opponent. We can potentially boost ourselves over whatever they're trying to block with, and also gain a draw off of what they've blocked us with. So, you know, that does work quite well, but definitely the one of my tamers I'm least sure of. So, you know, maybe let me know what you think about that in the comments, guys. Next up, options. So we've got a few options that we play in this. First up, 3 options. I might say a few. It's 2 options, but a few copies of them. We've got 3 offense training, which obviously helps us search anything that's red, helps us go into things more cheaply. You know, there's not really much else I can say about training cards. They're amazing. They're brilliant. They're great. They pretty much belong in every deck, especially decks that pretty much only use one colour. So, you know, just use them. They're great. Then the last cards we've got are 2 copies of Lightning Joust, just to help us with getting more damage at the beginning of the game. So they get 2000 DP, one of your Digimon gets 2000 DP for the turn, and security attack +1, but only if the number of cards in your security attack is less than or equal to your opponent's. So you've got to use this cleverly. If you're right at the start of the game, in your 5 security versus 5 security, you can do that and give yourself an extra security attack +1, but obviously for the rest of the game, you kind of need to have less or equal, so you know, bear that in mind, but it does really help with ramping up that damage. This is kind of a flex spot. This kind of helps with our champion rush. It's at this point we can talk about potential kind of flex spots. So when we're looking at the option flex spots, obviously a lot of stuff that likes to play Digimon out, so something like Crimson Blaze would be a really good shout. You know, delete 6000 DP or less. Your opponent can't play Digimon by effects until the end of their turn. Obviously, you reduce this by the amount of Digimon they have in play as well. So really good against decks that like to spam things out. You know, Crimson Blaze is fantastic against stuff like D-Brigade, Fenrir Agumon, you know, loads of stuff. You could also play things like Mega Flame, because you've got Greymons in name, so you can, you know, delete lowest play cost on the field, or lowest DP, sorry, for just 4 cost, which can be pretty good. You can also delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 6000 DP or less if you don't have a Greymon in name, so that could potentially be something. Similar vein, Magma Bomb, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest DP. Obviously, I would probably say the Mega Flame's probably better, just because it's only 4 cost, and it's got a bit more versatility, but, you know, still an option. Atomic Megalo Blaster, potentially as a, you know, delete everything with 10,000 or less. And it's a total DP thing, so this and Crimson Blaze can potentially delete similar amounts of Digimon, so probably Crimson Blaze is the better of the 2, but something to experiment with. And then something like Trident Gaia or Gaia Force, you know, so you can delete bigger things. I would possibly choose Trident Gaia over something like Gaia Force, just because if you delete something with a certain DP threshold, in this case 13,000 DP, you also trash the top of their security, which could be really good. Some other flex spots for kind of the rest of the deck is... I was at one point potentially thinking of actually going more of a Shine Greymon route in our lower kind of places. So playing like one of Geo Greymon from BT13, playing Marcus Damon, you know, that sort of thing. But I did want to ultimately be more on theme and play Thai stuff. But the Shine Greymon stuff does work. I mean, I used to play a lot more Shine Greymon stuff back when I used to play AguBond before BT14. You know, stuff like Raise Greymon X and stuff like that. So all stuff that you could consider doing. Another potential flex card, and to be fair, I ended up not playing it, but it could work, is the Metal Greymon Ace from BT14. Of the Ace cards, this is the most underwhelming, you know, just in general. But, you know, it could work in this. It's cheap to play. It deletes stuff with 6,000 or less. You know, it's all right. It's not bad. But that's the deck, guys. Let me know what you think. I'm not going to do any... test hands for this one today, just because we have the links to the Jank Tank down below. So if you do want to see this deck in action, what it can do, feel free to check out the Jank Tank playlist, and you guys can see this deck in action. But like I say, to support the channel, if you like the content, please make sure to like, subscribe, and ding the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future content. Specifically, the next Jank Tank tournament is coming out on the 12th of February, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But until next time, keep it digital.